Well, that corporation fell victim of the Roosevelt Depression. Did you know that the slide in economic activity was greater in the year 1938 than it was in the year 1929 or the year 1933? 1933 was the depth of the Depression, and painfully and slowly the North American and world economy was inching its way out of that terrible trough, that depression. And one of the worst depressions in history, if not the worst. And things were improving, and suddenly, pow, they took a step back, and the economic decline was terrifying enough that it made people think, oh, this is going to be worse than what we suffered in '33. But it didn't turn out that way.
Dad,
the slide stopped fairly abruptly.
Was it your interest in engineering or your interest in Mum and the Montreal life surrounding Mum that was greater than your interest in working with your dad back in Thunder Bay?
There are three men whose valued judgment I cherished above all others. One was my father. One was Mum's father, your grandfather Earl. And one was H.E. McKean, who came along later. All the way through I was wondering, should I go up? I knew it would bring on a family squabble. I knew probably Uncle Jack would leave GRD and Company, and he was the heir apparent. And the one that Grandpa was grooming to take over the business. And, but I could see myself having some of the quality of life that my father had enjoyed, and starting off with more than just a standing start, with a pretty good running start, and with the world's best coach, as far as I'm concerned, in real estate, looking over my shoulder. So I spoke to my dad about it. As a matter of fact, I spoke to my dad along with Bill Lilly, who was with me. And Dad says, oh look, you fellas, you're settled in the East. He says, I know the East. He says, I know the West. He says, and I know the Lakehead. He says, you just walk down the street and keep your ears open and you'll hear a nickel, 15 cents, 20 cents in the Lakehead. You walk around the business section of Montreal, for example, 100,000, 600,000, 12 million. He says, we are nickel and dime people. The big business is at the financial centers of the country. And the number one financial center of the country at that time was Montreal. So Dad's advice was, yeah, if you really want to come here, I'll make a place for you, but I think you're better off making your own way down east. Strangely enough, both H.E. McKean and A.P. Earl advised me almost identically. Whatever you do, don't mix family and business. Divorce yourself from the family business. Don't get into that. Both of them had seen too many sad family experiences because of jealousies and that sort of thing. And inevitably, and Jack Flatt had told me long before he died that had I elected to go into GRD and Company Limited, he for sure was going to be my fiercest competitor. And I don't know how successful a competitor I'd be against Jack Flatt, because he had the knack and he had the touch, the Midas touch in real estate. So,
okay, now I'm going to really move ahead, and I'm going to bring us right to in recent history, within the last 10 or 15 years, the center of gravity of the Duncan family has shifted now today to Toronto. I am all the way out in Regina. My brothers are living in Ontario, a sister in Toronto, and you're alone here in Montreal.
No, but Jimmy.
Jamie's here. Now, I'd like you to talk about how you encouraged your children to move outside of Quebec and why.
Well, the stress and strain between English and French Canada has been a fact of life throughout the history of Quebec. Gosh, there's a great poem written by Drummond on national policy, because the birth rate in Quebec was about the world's highest. And I think they started, I think, no, the national policy, it's another poem completely. I think that one fine job we done on Canada. We don't make the big, or make the big hurrah. But he goes on to kid the French Canadian, and his determined, what's the word I'm hunting for? Not the revolt of the cradle, the revenge of the cradle. Because the French won Quebec back from the English by populating it. And that's exactly what has happened in history. And that's what Dr. Drummond was writing kiddingly about 80 years or so ago. In fact, more than that, I guess. I've, as you know, as you fellows know, I belong to a group, a discussion group. I'm the only surviving charter member of it. That involves some pretty top-notch talent in the field of economics. And we used to have luncheon meetings every week. And at one of those luncheon meetings, I went around the table. We had a couple of university professors. We had senior vice presidents in charge of economics of the banks, the railways, you name it, they were all there. I went around and I said, look, I got 4 sons and 1 daughter. But none of you have that many, I know it. If you were in my shoes, would you be urging them, persuading them
Hi dear, how are you?
Very
nice to meet you. Come on in, please.
to plan on moving out of Quebec?
Isn't that beautiful? I'm sorry.
I'm just going to finish a little narrative, then I'm going to take a break because I'm ready for
Well, there's water.
I think we're almost
Water.
at the end of this.
water. That'll rust my iron
A
constitution.
bit of confusion.
Oh gosh, that's more than water. That's Perrier.
Put it on my bed.
The improves the flavor of Perrier is.
Scotch.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Glenlivet.
Don't put Glenlivet in there. Finish your story.
The 4 sons.
I said, what would you do? What would you advise me to do? To so encourage the direction of their education that they at least got exposed to other than Quebec and could then, as adults, elect, I want to come back to Quebec, or I've seen the other side of Canada, I want the other side of Canada.